Hello, fellow IB students. My name is Mohsin Khan, and today I will be talking about Latin America and the Great Depression. The initial effects of the Great Depression in Latin America were similar to what was seen elsewhere. As the demand for goods declined, there was an outflow of capital. This in turn meant internal deflation, the fall in value of Latin American currencies, and a rise in unemployment. There was a fall in foreign investment, and many countries found themselves in financial trouble as they were significantly indebted to foreign banks. As the banks themselves collapsed, they demanded an immediate return of the money they had invested, but in most cases this was impossible. Protectionist measures left many Latin American goods unaffordable, and local products could not provide the revenue to repay debts or keep the governments afloat. So, as a result, many countries in Latin America found themselves in an economic collapse. The immediate effect of the Great Depression in many Latin American countries was political change. Placing blame on the existing governments, there were a number of coups. In the year after the Wall Street crash, the military took power in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Guatemala, Honduras, and Peru. While their treatment of the population and respect for the rights of individuals were dubious at best, they had at their disposal the mechanisms to change economic policies to address the crisis. From the Depression onwards, state intervention in the economy became the new norm. Now let's discuss the cause of the Great Depression in Brazil. As we all know, Brazil depended a lot on coffee. Coffee was what dominated Brazilian exports and were the source of over 70% of the country's revenue. To keep coffee prices high, goods were purchased by the Sao Paulo Institute in Brazil and withheld from the rest of the world. To pay for this, Brazil took out loans from foreign banks and received revenue from transportation tax. And that's right, you guessed it, this was called valorization. And it was dangerous because other countries increased their production of coffee and limited Brazil's dominance in that area. This was one of the economic causes. Also, in May 1929, the price of coffee declined drastically, and Brazil had an overproduction of coffee, making it even worse. This led to Brazil's leading crop to not be useful in the economy, and Brazil could not make money from it to pay back all the loans it made. Now let's talk about some of the effects of the Great Depression in Brazil. The national economic decline had a huge impact on businesses. Shop owners from all around Brazil reported a 40% decline in sales in December 1929. Around 1 million Brazilians were affected by the Great Depression, with the rural workers now being landless laborers that planters couldn't pay anymore. So they had to be let go. Many tried to go to the city to find work, but failed, and as many people tried, the same number stayed behind in the rural areas unemployed. Even the small fraction of Brazilians that were employed didn't get paid for months at a time. The Depression hit Brazil just like it had many other countries, with many people going unemployed and not being able to support themselves or others. Okay, so what was Brazil's response to the Depression? Well, Getulio Vargas was the president of Brazil while the Depression was going on in that time. Many people that advocated democracy saw him as a fitting leader. He implemented policies that supported the coffee industry while at the same time took Brazil off of its dependency on coffee. He created the National Department of Coffee that immediately called for a reduction in coffee tree planting. In 1931, the government introduced a program of coffee burning that destroyed around 60 million bags of coffee by 1939 and decreased the surplus of coffee. The government also reduced imports by 75% from 1929 to 1932, and exports also fell, but not that fast, leaving Brazil with a favorable trade balance through the import substitution industrialization, which is an economic policy that urges countries to not depend on foreign trade a lot and produce its own products with local industrialization. And this brings me to the final topic that I will be discussing in this video, the impact of the Great Depression on the societies of Brazil. During the Great Depression, women were given a lot more responsibility. Many of you may ask why. Well, it's simply because with all the reforms and programs to get Brazil out of the Depression, job opportunities were open for them where they could work alongside men. Also, women were granted the right to vote in 1932 under Vargas as Brazil was slowly working on getting out of the Depression. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.